I'm gonna start recording. Thanks, everyone. Hi, Heather. Where are you based?
Hi, I'm in Philadelphia.
Oh, great. Cool.
You might be more familiar with my counterparts, Jovan Ellis and Brian Belknap.
Yes.
They've made more appearances than I have.
Yeah, that's cool. I happen to be I live in Philadelphia, so I'm here too. And I was friends with the folks who got Maker John, as it was called then, started up. So here comes Jovan. Yeah. Hello, hello. Nice to see you, Jovan. Hello, Teen Services / Julia. Hi, Gretchen, Matt, Caitlin. Hello, hello. Jovan and Heather, do you have you worked with Learning Times, or do you remember? They said they worked with some of the early badge work in Philadelphia, and I don't know if they were talking about Maker John in particular.
I think that was all Maker John.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Julia, do you remember them by chance? Learning Times. They support sort of online networking and stuff. Okay. Hello everyone. We'll just wait a few more minutes for people to join. And via Matt, you said you were going to facilitate today, right? Was that yeah, cool.
That is correct. So if everyone could, we're going to wait until more people show up, and we're going to start with a round of introductions, talk about what would be a fun, good icebreaker question. What cool summer program are you thinking about doing this coming in a couple months? And then after that, we'll turn it over to our presenters today, which we're very, very excited to hear about tween programs, because it's a very often overlooked segment, because it's developmentally, it's totally different from working with teens and totally different from working with kids. So it should be a pretty fun and engaging place to jump off and to think of other places we can better connect with our communities. And also, we should also be celebrating our 2 new program coordinators, who Matt Baker's one, and of course Marcus, who will be presenting later on in a bit. So super cool.
Can we find out if anybody here is going to ALA?
Sure. Is anyone? No, too expensive. I agree.
Does anyone have colleagues going to ALA?
I think there are a few folks at the free library that are going, but I'm not sure if it's just the usual crew of like selectors and administrators, or if we have some of our branch staff going as well.
Okay. V and I were just meeting with folks at YALSA about doing a meet and greet there with also YALSA and YOUmedia. So we'd like to get the word out, even if you aren't individually going, it might be a nice opportunity for folks to meet there. Hello, Mark. Hello, Marcus.
Yeah. We're partnering with YALSA, since YALSA shares a lot of our values and our goals with building community and working with teens and young people. And we're also found a sponsor named Learning Times that there was previously a link in the chat earlier. They developed a digital badging system that's free, that's apparently has been downloaded 300,000 times, one of their most popular digital badging processes out there. And we are looking to build a community from whomever decides to show up to this wonderful event that we're having. So we'll have a little meet and greet, we'll have a little bingo game, and hopefully I borrowed from a design thinking process of creating a post-it note wall where people can sort of self-build out the communities they need to serve, to help themselves get the sort of support that they need to build out what it is they're looking to build out. So I was thinking like maybe people who wanted to do mental health for teens, they could find each other throughout the nation, or people wanted to do more podcasting or working on hybrid programming, that kind of like, here's an organization with, two organizations doing the same work, similar work, and seeing what can happen out of this. We'll also be pushing out signing up to the committee of practice here. So we hopefully after ALA, we'll see some new faces and kind of inspire this kind of work. And hopefully likewise help out YOUmedia with getting better or getting experience and learning how to build a community of practice with, instead of from a top down, more from I don't like saying bottom up, but more from a flatter, I'll put it flat, more from a flatter place. And then we should ask Matt and Marcus to introduce themselves as the new program coordinators that we've just brought on.
I'll go ahead. Hey, everybody. I'm Matt Baker. I'm at the Science Museum of Virginia. Our YOUmedia space is called The Mix, and it has, the physical space has been closed for a little bit due to COVID concerns and staffing concerns since we lost a lot of people, but we're building back up to opening that space. In the meantime, we've had them up in our larger maker space, which is called The Forge. And that's where we kind of work with our tweens and younger age groups, is up in The Forge. So happy to join the conversation there and happy to be a part of the coordination team.
How's it going? My name is Marcus Brown. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, good. I don't know why I can't hear myself. Okay, there we go. Yeah, and I am with the Kansas City Public Library, and we have our makerspace, Kansas City Digital Media Lab, at one of our at our Southeast branch location, and I'm the lead facilitator. And we also have a person in our space that focuses on arts and animation, and we have a person in our space that focuses on audio production. We also was able to secure a person that is in the library that brings our that is our children's librarian that works with us to be the bridge between standard library fare and what happens in the digital media lab, so that it's kind of working in tandem. So yeah, I'm excited about the possibilities of just working on this national effort. We've been a YOUmedia organization since we were inaugurated in 2014. And so I'm seeing the great work. We're seeing, youth graduate from high school, graduate from college, and come back to talk to us. So that's been great. So yeah, definitely just excited about the possibilities of the work we're doing, and hoping to continue to put resources in the hands of us operators.
Marcus, the greatest setup ever. So we're looking at 15 years of YOUmedia next year. So ideally we should, as a team or as a group here, visualize what it would be like to meet up next year, and maybe do a conference or some sort of thing. It should be fun. It should be revitalizing, and pretty much start thinking about what kind of activities you want to do. If you know of any sponsors or people who would be interested in doing this and help supporting this work, and start thinking about what kind of stories and things you'll need to kind of bring about this work out to a greater audience. I think this would be a very fun thing for us to all start thinking about for preparing for 2023. Anybody got any? Yes, I'm ready. I know, 15 years. Thank you. And I guess that'll be our new warm-up question. What do you think we should do to celebrate 15 years of YOUmedia? And I'm going to toss it off to our other program coordinator. We'll choose between Taylor or Brian. You guys can pick.
I can go first. I think we'll be heading into our 15th year of YOUmedia mid 2023. So close to 15. Because yeah, YOUmedia Chicago opened in the summer of 2009. And yeah, I'm Taylor. I'm from Harold Washington Library Center at the Chicago Public Library. And the YOUmedia, that first YOUmedia that opened in summer 2009. So that is me. Hello, everybody.
Hi, I'm Brad Kopetsky. I'm up north of Chicago in scenic Menasha, Wisconsin. It's a small town by most of the libraries you guys are at. And I'm the director here, and we are, prior to coming here, I was at another space in Wisconsin Rapids. And honestly, I don't have a lot of thoughts on how we can celebrate, but I would say we should celebrate because just in the short time I've worked with the group, I've seen, again, what we do doesn't generally create huge numbers when it comes to like impacts and things like that. But when you look at the stories of the real impacts we make, it's not numbers of books, it's not numbers of attendees, it's that teen that was heading down potentially the wrong path that found their place with us, and they are doing great things now. So those are the things I like to celebrate.
We can make a yearbook. That's what you're telling me, Brian. We should make a yearbook. Okay, Brian, pick a name.
Let's go to Adrian.
You're muted, Adrian.
Yeah, sorry, I had the mute button hidden by the chat, so it took me a couple of seconds to move the chat to unmute. Hello, I'm Adrian from the Boulder Public Library, but I am with a friend today that I will let introduce themselves.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Leanne. Here's my face. I'm the teen librarian at Boulder Public Library, and yeah, just super excited to be here. I had attended one meeting previously, but then when Adrian came on board, I saw that she was like signed up for a meeting, and I was like, oh yes, I want to just get more involved and learn more. So thank you for having us.
And we are in our teen space right now. I'm going to send it on to, let me see here, Caitlin.
Hi, everybody. I'm Caitlin Jackson from the Birmingham Public Library in Alabama. I run the lab here. And as far as celebrating, I don't know, it would be nice to meet up, I think, in person if that were possible. I don't know if that is possible, but it'd be nice. So that's probably what I would want to do, because I know we don't normally get the chance to do all that and really meet in person. And who am I passing it to? How about Heather?
You know, I'm sitting here saying, don't pick me, don't pick me. We all have to do this. I'm Heather Sparks, and I'm a hot mess from Free Library of Philadelphia. And I have been in charge of the after school program here for the last 8 years. And about 6 years ago, I think we absorbed our Maker John program as their funding sunsetted. And that's partly why we are still here and involved. As far as how to celebrate, this is my first meeting in a long time, so I don't have an opinion yet. I don't want to suggest something that's like silly. And I have no self-confidence, the end. I pick Gretchen, because you're in my favorite place.
So hi, I'm Gretchen Kolderup, and I am new to the Multnomah County Library. I'm working out of the Rockwood Makerspace here.
Judith is also on the team here, but she's out today. And then for those of you who know Desiree, she's transitioned into a different role with the library, still in the library, just not doing maker stuff. So I am very new, obviously, to YOUmedia. And so I don't really have strong opinions about how to celebrate 15 years, but I am really looking forward to getting to know all of you better and kind of learning from you. I opened a makerspace at my last library, but it was like a tiny little library and wasn't part of the YOUmedia network. And so I'm looking forward to having more of that sense of community. And I guess I would want some celebration to include that sense of community. I have totally lost track of who we've heard from and who we haven't because you're all just so new to me. But I'm looking at this. Jovan, have you gone yet to pass to you?
I haven't.
Okay.
I will go. Hi. So my name is Javon Ellis. I work with the Free Library of Philadelphia. Heather is my boss. And that is why I'm also a little eccentric. So I work with the Literacy Enrichment After School program. It's one of the largest free drop-in programs in the city, and it's offered at all of our 54 different library locations. And so for folks who haven't met me before, the interesting thing about our Maker program is that it looks completely different at every single library. What we do is we really try to give our staff the tools and scaffolding to build upon their interests and the interests of the youth in their neighborhood to kind of create their own Maker programs. And so just recently they were doing activities in one of our North Philly libraries around pottery. Like they teamed up with a local pottery making studio and had a chance for participants to make their own clay bowls. At a different place, they were using Sphero and other different types of robotics to have fun with the kids. So it's really a kind of a living program, and I think that's one of the really cool things about what we do. As for the 15-year celebration, so I feel a little bit spoiled because I got a lot of time to think about my response. And one of the things I was thinking about was a while ago, like many moons ago, I went to the facilitator called this an unconference of sorts. And so what it was he invited all kinds of different organizations and people, and he gave us an idea of what to expect. And it was a 2-night thing. So, keep that in mind. But when we arrived, the first thing we did was everybody went around a table and they wrote down on a piece of paper some things that they wanted to talk about, topics that were really interesting to them, like their number one most interesting topic. And then he had everybody go around a second time and put their name next to topics that they were also interested in. So different topics that they were interested in, but also topics that they were knowledgeable about. And so what happened was later on through that process, not only did he find out what people were interested in hearing about, but he also was able to find out sort of the thought leaders around these different types of topics that could be facilitators for these conversations. So anyway, I like the idea of doing a conference, and especially if we all have an input into what we're going to say or talk about or lead, that kind of thing. I will pass it on now to Nick in Nashville.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nick Tonioni. I'm the Studio MPL manager. They finally changed my title after 8 years, even though it's the same job, at Studio MPL Nashville. And 15 years, wow, that's crazy. Who wrote the yearbook in the beginning? Was that Christina? Yeah. I think it'd be really interesting to do like a little mini yearbook where we could do little highlights from all of our branches and maybe put it all together into a digital, or actually it'd be cool to have like a physical publication that all the branches could have to kind of show off. I'm always bragging that we're part of the YOUmedia network and always trying to sort of sell the YOUmedia network. So that would be rad. Also, in-person meetups are so much fun. So of course, I'd love to see that again, even if they're just regional. I think we could get, I know Nashville, we'd be willing to host some regional folks here if anyone wants to come to the Southeast and get real hot and sticky and sweaty down here in Nashville. I don't know who's left. Would anyone just jump in if they're not?
Hello, I'm Mark Pedersen. I am the manager at YOUmedia at the Hartford Public Library. I'm a newly appointed manager as of a couple months ago. I was a mentor here for quite a while. My area of expertise, I've talked about this in the past, but is virtual reality, game design, augmented reality, creating things for the metaverse, that type of stuff. But always interested in collaborating and finding out what other ideas that everyone else is creating. So, I like the idea of creating like a yearbook, like you were saying. Maybe something else to add to that would be kind of ideas and projects that students have worked on over the year or over the past 15 years. I know that our space started in 2014 here at the Hartford branch. Yeah, looking forward to talking more with everybody. And same thing, I'm not sure who else is next, but go ahead and jump in.
Here I can go. Don't know how to jump in, but maybe it's working. My name is John Brown. I work with the YOUmedia in Springfield, Ohio. Was hired on as the coordinator back in August. And so I'm just finishing up our first year as far as a school year, because we work with the school district. And so our program is kind of doing the end of year celebrations and jumping into our summer programs. Yeah, and so I'm, hey, celebrating. I like to get to know everybody. So that would be, this was my first call that I've been able to break away to be on. And so just seeing everyone and connecting is pretty cool. So look forward to more of these, and yeah, whoever is next, that would be fantastic.
Hi, I'm Shelley Hughes. I work for the Chicago Public Library with Taylor. I'm actually the Director of Children's Services and Family Engagement. So the department that I oversee works with everybody ages 13 and under. So I'm sort of crashing the party, but I promise I was invited. So I'm mostly here to listen. And I don't have any ideas for how to celebrate the 15th anniversary of YOUmedia, because all my ideas would be aimed at 5-year-olds.
I think we all would love a sticker book, and a clearly digital badges is the topic of conversation today. So clearly, to sum up, we are looking at a digital yearbook or a physical yearbook. We're open to regional meetups, but we're also open to going to Nashville and getting a cowboy hat, it looks like, and maybe some element of the conference. Remember, we're going to have to pitch for sponsorship and funding. So ideas now will help us pitch for future. Well, there'll be an element of an unconference to it. So pretty much whatever the strengths we bring will be maybe the evening time, as suggested by Jovan, we talk whatever our strengths are, and maybe there'll be there's apparently expertise in virtual reality, augmented reality, and
You were breaking up a little bit, V.
I'm sorry. Where did I break up at?
Augmented reality. So
Augmented reality. Oh, somebody said hackathon. That'll be fun. And I guess I'll popcorn it to Matt to see if Matt sees anything worth noting.
Yeah, I mean, I think you pretty much summed it all up. I think the one big thing I heard was it's some sort of in-person thing, just to get everybody back together because it's been so long. Personally, I'd love to do a national, see if we can find a location that's good for everybody and get everybody there. But I love the idea of a regional one too. That would be cool if folks can't do that. So that was my big takeaway.
Brian wants to record a theme song. And yeah, there sprints we could do for a hackathon. Like if there is something we would like to build, such as a digital badge kit, since apparently this is what I learned about today, this morning. morning. It's about digital badging. But that's that. And I think we're going to toss it over to our presenters today and get ready to be inspired. Thank you.
Marcus and Caitlin.
I'm good to go first if you want.
Yeah, I didn't know. Great.
Okay, I'll go first. I'll go first. I have a little PowerPoint. It's very short and sweet, and we'll see how that goes. Let me try to share. Oh, I can't share it. Christina,
I just
okay.
I just changed it. I was trying to do it before you got there. Yeah. Can you do it now?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, great.
All right, let me go ahead and present. So we're kind of talking about tweens and serving tweens today. If this thing would present the way it's supposed to. Here we go. And I also have a little bit of information about like our lab and how we serve stuff. So we not only do tweens, but we also now are doing younger kids as well. So I have a little bit about that also. But I'm here, and my coworker Gavin Tucker is here as well. He's waving at you from the corner. He does our music lab. So that's a really big part of our after school program. So when we have a chance for you guys to ask questions, he's here to answer any questions about that for you guys. And of course, I just introduced us, but here we are again. Here's some pictures of our lab space. So just to give you guys kind of an idea, we have two areas here physically. Down here in the bottom is our actual kind of teen lab where we do most of our like robotics programs and things like that. We have a green screen wall back there in the back. But we also have sort of our Story Castle game room space as well. So sometimes we're able to divide the kids up by age. Sometimes they kind of intermix. Before we had a lot of mentors from UAB because we're very close to that college, and they would come in and do a lot of the programs for us. At one point we had about 6 to 9 of them when we had our grant going. Right now the lab is most of the staff that's here at the library. So myself, Gavin, and then our supervisor as well as doing a lot of the programs. Not only do we have this physical space that you guys see here, but we're the only lab for our system. So we actually do a lot of outreach to the schools, and we also supplement our other branches as well. So we take programs to them and do the programs at those locations too. So we do that for about 15 to 16 locations right now. So why tweens and younger? We have a couple of different reasons for that. The first is our after school program already. So right down the street, about 2 blocks, we have a K-8 school, and we have a lot of kids that come to us after school just because they need a place to go. So after school, we can have anywhere between 20 to 60 kids here in our space every day, depending on the year. Right now is usually our busiest time because after spring break, they don't have sports except for like tryouts. So they're here with us a lot. And so a lot of those kids, because it's K-8, are already kind of the tweens, because the younger kids, a lot of them get picked up by their parents. But it's the older kids that usually have to have some place to go. So the majority of our kids after school are 6th and 7th grade. So it was kind of natural that we were already giving programs to those kids because we just already kind of had that built-in audience for ourselves here at the physical location. Now, the other reason is we have a lot more success getting in touch with the middle schools around us to do outreach than we do the high schools. For some reason, even though we reach out to the high schools, a lot of them just don't get back in touch with us as much as the middle schoolers do. So we have a lot of contacts, whether it be teachers or librarians at our K-8 schools or our middle schools. And so then we also kind of decided that it was really important to start those programs with the kids when they were younger, not only as teens, but even younger kids, because what we were running into is that a lot of our teens had not had a lot of experience with these programs before. It was things that they had never seen. And of course, we were really happy to be introducing them to these things that they had never gotten to see before. But we also weren't really being able to go in as much depth in a lot of those programs because they hadn't. So we decided to branch out and have programs that not only could introduce these kids to things that were new and exciting, but also hopefully build those skills when they were young. And then they could go into a little bit more depth in them when they got older. I will also say too, a lot of the kids in our area, their reading and math skills are actually a grade or two behind. So even before the pandemic, if we were serving sixth graders, we were actually trying to serve them something that was more on a fourth or fifth grade level. And so with the pandemic, of course, they're even a little bit further behind. So that also kind of goes into play of how we design the programs and things like that. So these are just some fun stats that we collected when we did have our really big grant. And you guys can see kind of how we divide, how we had male or female patrons, that sort of thing. The 2,000 number down here is the total number of patrons we served when we had that grant going on. And we had 145 programs that we served them with. And then this blue and green over here is the grades broken down into that. So you guys can kind of see, even without our after school kids, just in general with outreach and things like that, we were hitting the most percentage of kids in that 6th or 7th grade area. I separated 8th grade on here because, those kids are kind of in a transition. Some of them might still be 12, some of them might be 13 and that sort of thing. So I kind of split that. I'm going to check the chat real quick just to make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, I think that was a question for me earlier. Sorry about that, Mark. We aren't doing anything VR currently, but I'm really looking into doing that. We just got some donations of like books that do VR and stuff. But I'd like to do programs and stuff with the kids about that. So that's why I'm really interested in that sort of thing. And then the top things up here are the different grants that we've had over the last like 5 to 7 years. The grant that I'm talking about that we kept the statistics for was the Community Foundation of Greater Birmingham grant, and they gave us a 2-year grant. And we're currently serving under the Infy Maker Grant Award this year. And that is the grant that allowed us to kind of expand to even younger than the tweens. So now we are also serving 3rd through 5th. So I serve as both the teen librarian and the STEM librarian for our system. And this right here is just some of the various programs we offer. Circuitry, I include Arduino and Snap Circuits in that. Snap Circuits is one of the new things we offer for the younger kids. That's really good if you want to focus just on the kind of building the circuits and not the coding portion of it. We also do different types of robots. So we have 3 different robots. We have some that they can build like the Vex, and then we have some that focuses just on coding. We do soldering. Soldering is pretty interesting. I'll show you guys an example of what we do with that. We don't do like actual soldering with the computers. We kind of do like these build projects, like make a lamp and that sort of thing, just to give them like practice with using the soldering machine. And then of course we also do 3D printing. We do the music production, which we have the lab for. And then another new thing we have for the younger kids is Strawbies. So on this, I have some pictures of some of the things we've done, especially for the younger kids. So this big picture right here is the Snap Circuits, where they can build the snaps. Those are kind of made more for younger kids. So the kit that I bought also kind of has a book with it that has some examples of different programs you can do already built into it. This is one of our kids building the Snap Circuits right over here. And then this right here is one of our kind of free-for-all build engineering programs where they built stuff based off of a zoo. So like they built habitats for different animals and things like that. So with this picture, the kids built a bridge for the monkeys in the zoo, and he's climbing across the bridge right there. I wanted to show you guys an example of like some of our PowerPoints and like how we set that up. This one's kind of a short one. This is one of the programs we did this year. So we did this for Black History Month. I actually found the original one on DF Scopes, and I have the link to that original thing in this PowerPoint as well. The PowerPoint I will share on our new website so that you guys can go back and look at any of the links and kind of look at how we've set these things up, our different PowerPoints. But just kind of doing this. So we start off with whatever like vocabulary or concept thing that we kind of want to teach them. And then we usually have like one kind of small hands-on project so that they can test it out and see if it works. So like if we're doing Arduino, it might just be one LED and see if you can get it to blink. And we let them practice that. And then we'll have a kind of bigger activity for them to do at the end. In this one, we did 3D printing beads. So I went ahead and made a bunch of the beads, but I actually sat down and let the kids design the bead in Tinkercad also so they could learn how to do that. I had examples of what these beads might look like. So these were different African beads they could design. And then we also talked about like how they designed the costumes and things in the movie and how that was important to the different cultures and how they brought that in. And we had a conversation with the kids of like what they see as identity and what identifies them and that sort of thing as well. And these were also symbols that they could make for their necklace. So that's just one kind of example of an activity that we've done. Really, we do a lot of the things with the tweens that we do with the teens as well. We just kind of adjust the activities. And if we think that we were doing too much with the teens, we kind of shorten it and maybe focus on some of the simpler things to give them a chance to practice with that. So almost all of the things that we offer to the older kids, we offer to the tweens. When we get into the younger areas, we kind of take it out. Like I don't do soldering with anybody that's under 6th grade because it just gets so hot. And I just feel better about it than the 6th graders. But they've done that. The 6th graders have done that by themselves in the lab. Like I'm in there with them, but they've played with those things by themselves and tinkered with it. So it's not all just structured stuff. We do a lot of that, but they also in the open lab get to play with these things by themselves. And ask us questions about it. All right, let's see if I have anything else. All right, so this is the part where if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me and Gavin anything that you want.
I thank you so much for that presentation. I have questions, but I want to open it up to everyone else first before I ask all my wonderful questions.
And we should limit some questions so that Marcus can present too, right? Just to.
That is correct.
Make sure.
Okay, we get
2 presenters.
2 questions, and then we're going to go to Marcus.
I was going to ask maybe kind of a basic question, but could you explain strawbees real fast?
Okay, strawbees is like a kit of like, it looks like plastic straws, but they have made like connectors that you can bend. That builds them together. So they have like set activities like learn how to build a city. And so like they'll build buildings out of these like straws and stuff, but then like the activity allows them to pull it together and the kids talk about sustainability for cities and stuff like that. So that's like one of the bigger projects. And then like for little biddies, they have simple stuff like make a giraffe and that sort of thing. So that's kind of like a more engineering based activity that we
nice, but like low tech, so good for
yes.
Cool, thanks.
Okay, Marcus, I'm hosting the.
All right, great. I appreciate your PowerPoint presentation. I wish I had one. Just like I should have went first. But be that as it may, great job. But and a lot of the things and the concepts actually align. Just in I'll give you the background. We started doing tween programming. We had Tween Fridays pre-pandemic, and what we saw is that we were getting those parents that would get off work and then they would want something for their young people to do for a few hours on the weekend that made sense. And so we had initially just catered to our kind of neighborhood young people, just with how our hours work. And so that allowed for us to just expand and start servicing those people that just don't come here right after school or right after work, to make it just a little bit more convenient. Fast forward to now, again, after the pandemic and just in what we see. We saw just math skills being in the basement amongst our young people, and just across the board in Kansas City. Pretty much all charter schools, private schools, and public schools tested bad. So well, we looked at that, and we're seeing high school age students that are sitting in algebra class and geometry class and physics class, and they can't do basic multiplication or long division or conquer fractions. We wanted to look squarely at when you're supposed to learn those particularly skills, and that just so happens to fall within that tween age group. And so we wanted to, again, our goal is to support, is to complement, it's not to take place of what takes place in the classroom. And so we wanted to have a healthy dose of just digging into those basic skills, just basic multiplication facts. So we make flashcards. We have something that we use called 5-minute frenzy, which just helps you time yourself and get your basic multiplication facts down. Our centerpiece for doing math is actually map reading. And so using maps, you just get a chance to cross so many ways to deal with measurements and things of that nature, from miles to gallons to how much does it cost to fly versus driving, time zones. And that was one of the questions that came up. We're having that conversation. And so one kid has families in California, and he knows that it's a different time zone, but he doesn't know why. And I says, well, this is because of the sun. It's like, but it's not registering. So we didn't take the whole diversion to go off and understand why how the earth rotates around the sun and the sun doesn't actually rise. But again, now we can start broaching and having those deeper conversations, just using these basic concepts and measurements that are commonplace. Even just the timepiece, we see that a lot of our young people can't tell time on an analog clock. Don't say a quarter till. Don't say a quarter after. It's a lost cause. So just dealing with those basic measurements that we know and need that makes math relevant was just kind of key in that process. As a staff, again, we're primarily focused on teens. And so this was a great chance for our staff to work with those younger people and smaller kids to see just how long it takes them to get stuff done, just to see that we didn't have enough small scissors available to deal with them, just to see that they think they have it and sometimes they really don't. And so just knowing when to continue to let them be independent and when did you kind of really step in with those younger kids without feeling like you're walking on they're stepping on their toes was kind of huge in that process for us, because we typically work with teens who are a lot more independent and kind of already have a personal interest. So those were key big takeaways for us. Has anybody ever heard of the Backyardigans? Okay, see, I just found out about them through our twin club, because it's a two-way street. And so that's one of the things that we do when we hear things that they say and we don't know about them or that they want to share. It becomes a point of learning for us. And it also gives them a chance to be expansive and thoughtful about things that they can speak intelligently about. Backyardigans. Which also led us to using the maps to look at, again, something that I found out about new was Chichen Itza. Is anybody familiar with Chichen Itza? Okay, so most people go to Cancun to, party and resort, but there's apparently some ruins there called Chichen Itza that are similar to just the Mayan temples. And so, again, this young person clued me into something that I hadn't thought about, the tourist aspects of Cancun other than the resort party type stuff. And so again, if we're looking at and we're respecting our young people as, not empty vessels, we'll see that even when they're coming for enrichments, there's things that allows us to better service them because we're listening to them. Again, now the idea that we can expand that conversation and go beyond things that are just dealing with the surface stuff allows for us to just kind of have a better relationship with the young people. Something that I've really keyed up on with these young people too is that they like to move. Just in the middle of conversation, one kid just jumped up and walked around the table. He never stopped talking and engaging, but he was just taking laps around the table. And so I just watched him and observed and didn't say anything about it because he continued to engage. But, you know, what happens with that energy when it's in the classroom? You know, how does it get dealt with? Is it a discipline issue or is it, you know, but just looking at those types of behaviors, it gives us a chance to just really think about how we're going to tailor this programming come the fall. The other big piece is that we had a organization called the Parent Power Lab working with us, because we understand that most importantly, the only way that we can sustain this work is if we make sure that the parents is involved. Because, I mean, I've had kids come to me like, well, Mr. Brown, I'm sorry I couldn't make it. Well, you know, you're 12. It's not always your call if you couldn't go do something, or maybe you do have that control. I didn't. So making sure that that was that other piece, was to look at how we can make sure that we have parent involvement in an understanding of why, you know, a lot of these acronyms being thrown around: 21st century learning, STEM, STEAM, depending on who you're talking to. What does that mean? Everybody needs to be coding. What does that mean? So that was that other piece, is that we wanted to help work with parents to just decipher some of these things, and then specifically look at the landscape of education here in Kansas City and its history, because they're being sold a lot of things about charter bad, public good, charter bad, and all of this other stuff that somebody needs to help them meet through, and not just the people that's trying to get the butts in the seat, if you will. So that was the other dynamic piece that we had, that we added, and we're going to continue to move forward with. We did have one administrator from one of our charter schools come in and just kind of talk about the idea that they don't have the capacity to offer some of these same activities for their tweens and their grade school age kids. And so we are looking to work more directly with schools in this effort as well, to provide some of these activities, because what we're seeing is also, as much as they know, they don't know. And so just in addition to doing it in the lab, and then somebody keep a timer, I don't want to talk too long. In addition to doing it in the lab, we're also looking to do some tween programming within the schools as well, just because we want to build young people into the space again, and also do that outreach with the schools in our corridor. And we're kind of, we have a lot of schools in our service area, like, you know, more than 7 or 8. So let me see, let me look here at my notes. I think I'm covering everything. Again, just the idea of dealing with these basic skills, you know, we're definitely seeing too many young people that are making it to algebra that don't have the goods to say that they're learning, and it's no good reason. And so if we can really truncate that or cut that off, that would be great. Let's see. Oh yeah, ergonomics. Just the chairs and the seating and the space for a lot of the younger kids didn't necessarily fit well. And so that was one of the things that we had to consider. And then what we also saw is that since we had started scaling younger, then though they were also bringing younger kids. And so luckily we had our children's librarian working with us, and she saw that right away and was proactive in the idea of how do we, take them out of the space, and so that they can be a little bit more comfortable, use the furniture that we do have adapted for them, but not like, oh, well, we said tweens. No, we had to be proactive and think about how, because, you know, mom has 2 kids, and so what is she going to do? And so that was just kind of great. And I appreciated that from our staff to just be kind of thinking, you know, actively in that environment. Because my first thing was like, well, we're not really trying to service them. And she's like, well, and I'm like, okay, well, I give. I'm easy on that one. Again, so we've had, you know, opportunities to have young people in the space. And what we always told parents is that, you know, we'll explore it, and, you know, but if it doesn't work, we don't want you to feel any kind of way. If they can't keep up, we don't want you to feel a kind of way, but we're not going to guarantee you that this is going to work. And so it's been hit and miss, because just with those tweens, what we see is that some of them are great and they can just move right into the process. And then other ones are just super needy and take too much energy to try to have them in a space with other teens that that are more independent. So it's just giving us a chance to really just look at that snapshot and try to figure out how we're going to play up and play down with these young people. And then also, luckily, it's a little bit of a gray area, but it always doesn't work. And I'm finding that out, kind of the hard way. We do want hard days where we don't have tweens in the space, because it doesn't, with those needier ones, they just take so much that you can't really service them and then service everybody else. And so that was that thing. I thought, well, we'll cruise along until we get to that point where it's a problem. And so, yeah, we've gotten to that point now where we really need to delineate, and because it's not fair to the teens, and it's not fair to the tweens to not be able to use the space the way that it was designed. So I'm gonna stop there. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer, or if we can go back to the other presentation. And
I'll jump in if I may. Marcus, thank you for sharing. I'm curious, you mentioned that you're getting the parents involved and stuff. That's something that we stay far away from. Could you speak briefly to how you're engaging parents?
So, yeah, we are working directly with an organization called Parent Power Lab. Okay, so in as much as we're engaging them, we're not facilitating the actual activities that the parents would engage in. So that was laid out by the organization Parent Power Lab and what those modules would look like. And then we would have like people like myself would just come in and, lay in the conversation and the dialogue about STEM, if you will. So we recruited the parents to get involved, but it was something totally, you guys do the parents, we're over here with the youth. It wasn't, because we're kind of particular about parents in the space as well. We don't like them in the space just because, not like them, but, it's not for parents. You got all of these other kids working well, and then you have one parent that kind of wants to hover. It's not,
Gotcha. So sorry to interrupt. So it's like it's a kind of a partnership thing. They're sort of doing some programming while they're working with the adults. You're sort of facilitating, kind of taking the young folks away and facilitating program simultaneously. Gotcha. Thanks, Marcus.
I guess I have a question for either Caitlin or Marcus. When you're, or anyone on the call, I guess, have you found a secret sauce for getting engagement and getting the schools to engage with you for work or for doing programming?
No secret sauce. Again, just working with the school district, we had ebbs and flows where they were great in the beginning, and then by the end, it wasn't so great. We've had individual teachers that were dynamic enough and reached out for us, and we built great relationships. And then, just like I said, with the Hogan Charter School here, an administrator who's now going to be a vice principal just came in to see how we could help, and we brokered a great relationship that we're going to continue to do in the fall. So for us, it's just it's a mixed bag. It's not anything that's always worked out well with any entity. I'll tell you this though, that's not a mixed bag. When it gets caught up in those levels of administration, it generally stalls. When it's with the teachers or those folks that are kind of proactive in those schools, then it moves forward. So that's been consistent. Too much administration bogs it.
I was just say, yeah, I have a similar experience. It's really just luck. Like I just so happened to go to some meeting. I don't even remember what the meeting was. And one of the librarians from one of the schools happened to be there. And I had talked about STEM programming, and she was like, I want that. And from that point, it kind of went off for us. And it's similar things, like people who knew people just happened to like give me their contact information, and I continued on. I will say we have recently, with the admin, kind of gotten a little bit better. but that was not necessarily because of me, but because of some of my regional coordinators. So recently our schools just transitioned to having an intersession where it's kind of like year-long school. They have like a summer school thing, and then throughout the year they have like weeks of intersession where the kids catch up, I guess, in response to the fact now that at least in Alabama, I don't know if this is for everybody or not. For us, if they're not on reading level by 3rd grade, they get held back, no matter what. So in response to that, I guess we now kind of have like these tutoring periods for them where, and if they're struggling in other subjects, they also can come to this kind of like tutoring intercession time or whatever. But because of that, the teachers are like in there with them for like 3 or 4 weeks more in the summer. And school doesn't get out until like June the 8th or something like that. And then you add the extra time on after that for intercession. So now because of that, their admin reached out to like our admin. And so we do programs for those intercession periods, usually for like the after school, because they still have after school even with the intercession. So that's actually now a big, huge chunk of our summer for summer learning. So a lot of my STEM stuff now is actually going out to at least 11 of the schools, and we do like an hour-long program with them. So this year we'll be doing the Strawbies. So that's gotten a little bit better recently for us, but I think it was because of this huge shift in the schedule. And we just happened to get on the train at the right time and be a part of it. So.
I noticed that both Marcus and Caitlin, thank you so much for your presentation. I learned so much about you talking about literacy issues, and like both in math and in English and stuff. So how do you instruct? Do you have, do you simplify the language, or do you not cover certain subjects? Like, I can see a lot of equity issues. Like, how do you make it so it doesn't sound like, oh yeah, I don't know how to say it in a non-polite way, you're the dumb one, or how do you do that?
Well,
go ahead, Marcus.
Well, the first thing is that I always, especially the high school students, is I tell them that it's some grown person's fault that you made it to high school and can't multiply. It's not your fault. It's a group of grown people that failed you along the way. And so that kind of rips the Band-Aid off, and it's not a stagnant thing. And then the other piece is to just task them with small stuff. Sometimes it's being direct as it relates to that information. But other times it's just small asks that keeps it present for them. Or, just with the older ones, hey, I know you're going to want to go to college. I know it. Do you want to pay for high school classes in college? Yeah. It kind of changes the direction. And oddly enough, just some of the younger kids are proficient right now, that we're more proficient in basic skills than the high school age students, but then it doesn't continue. They don't continue to get the same rigor of work or understanding if something happens, it falls off.
Yeah. I'll say a lot of the way we have our program set up is almost like me teaching a class, the structured one, at least. Like I feel like I'm actually leading like a class like I was in school as a teacher and doing it. So I have those PowerPoints and it has the words up there, but I'm usually going over a lot of the concepts before we even get started. So that might help a little bit because even if they can't read it, at least I'm kind of explaining some of it to them. But we did run into that problem actually more with our little kids because, as I said, we've expanded it now to even like 3rd grade. So I got Cody Rockies. If any of you guys are familiar with those robots, they are the same brand that does like M-Bot robots, but it's supposed to be for younger kids. But the problem was I was attempting to simplify it because I do that as well. But I try to simplify some things. And even when I was simplifying it, they weren't getting it, but it was more because they were little and they still didn't know their colors. And even me going, hey, click on the green, which is how I would usually simplify it, was not simple enough for those kids. But that is what I'll tend to do. Like, so for the robots, if they're just like stressed out because they can't find whatever is on the screen, instead of going, hey, click on, what's one of the words? Click on the visuals tab. Like instead of saying visuals, if I realize that they're not getting it on Cody Rockies, most of those have their own individual color. And I go, okay, you're looking for the purple one. Every code under this is going to be purple. You know, it's all color coded, that sort of thing. So I will simplify it some in that sense. And a lot of, especially for like the tweens and stuff, a lot of our coding programs will have the code on the screen. So even if they can't read it, they're like copying it. And then I'm going back and explaining what they just typed in and going, this is what this code will hopefully do for you. And this is why we have put it on here and why you're putting it in here, so that they'll at least understand the concept of what they're doing, you know, even if they can't like read it or whatever. Most of the time that turns out to be fine. We might run into problems of like somebody mistyped something, like spelling issues and things like that. But we're usually able to kind of like break it down and go, hey, this is what we're doing and this is how you should do that. But Marcus mentioned math and multiplication, and we have the same issue. I wanted to say that because that seems to be the really big breakdown. I don't know what it is, but we'll just have kids who are like in fifth and sixth grade and they still can't do like their 5 multiplications or something. And so we will have to help them with that too. And I don't know why that is. It seems like that would be something that would want to be addressed, considering you need multiplication so much from that point on, you know, algebra and all kinds of things needed. But we have the same problem. Multiplication seems to be the kind of point where things break down for our kids as well. So.
Well, thank you. Go ahead. Sorry, Marcus. Go ahead.
I just don't know how you would expect for a student to sit in your algebra class and be successful and they can't multiply. I mean, I don't know how you would allow it. And as a classroom teacher, and that's one of the reasons I was a math teacher, and I would invariably have a group of freshmen or 8th graders where 60% of them couldn't do basic multiplication. And so, but I will be responsible for that algebra component. But I'm like, no, we can't move forward without this. And so we'd spend the first 2 or 3 months retrieving those basic skills. And then consequently, because I'm teaching 8th and 9th graders and I just got them to learn how to multiply, divide, and do decimals, I don't get any credit for that because that's not grade level work for them. And so, you know, I don't get credit for moving you from 10%, you know, knowledgeable or to 43%, because it's still not 75%, if you will. You know what I'm saying? And so that was really one of my frustrations with being in the classroom, is the expectation to teach whatever subject is labeled the class versus what these young people need to know.
It's one of the things that strikes me about what you were saying earlier about the importance of these partnerships, and also the real world nature of learning math, you know, like having something that you're interested in and you learn the math in that context, and then thinking about ways to partner potentially with local teachers in schools so that this stuff connects. So anyway, that just feels like an important piece of this, because yeah, we can all see problems along the way and we notice them.
I know one of the things we see with kids coming in is, you know, whether it's from parental failures or educational failures, we get a lot of kids that come in and their confidence is just completely shot. And, you know, trying to just get them to embrace the fact that they have their talent and do things, sometimes that's the biggest hurdle. Just to put them back into the framework where they can, or frame of mind where they can something, are even willing to try.
Especially for the girls with math, that is. That trope is so droned into their head that it becomes really difficult.
I'm just having a mind blown moment of like, did I do it all wrong? I mean, not do it all wrong, but more like if I'm teaching really hands-on stuff, you still need some math to do it. I mean, there's a bit of math in making stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was just measuring, but if it's that deep, then, well, I don't know.
I've recently become reacquainted with my unknown love for math and all the handicraft stuff that I do. Like watercolor perspective, you have to know some parts of geometry and different angles. Quilting, you have to be able to do straight lines. So yeah, the math really comes through in all of those activities for sure. And it's something that we've been trying with our Maker program to introduce those like low level things that tie into Maker, but also support math skills.
Yeah, and V, I don't think it's an either or. I think it's both, and because sometimes one side informs the other and vice versa. Just as far as how you use the practical versus just the pointed 1+1 versus the practical hands-on stuff.
Okay, cool. I think that's a good stopping point. Thank you so much, Caitlin, Marcus. You gave us so much to think about. Thank you, everyone, for your chat ideas. And Christina, what else do we say at the end of these talks and these meetups? That's all I know.
Thank you for taking the time to connect, and we'll reconnect in 2 months. And I don't have the date in front of me. I wish I did. Oh, let me try to get it real fast. July. 14th.
Okay. All right. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Yeah.
everyone.
Sorry, didn't know you started at 1 Eastern.
Oh, so sorry. How are you?
Hi, Adrian. I'm good, Christina. Yeah, I just got off desk and I'm like, okay, I can eat my lunch with the camera off. No one will notice. And they're done. Okay, well.
Well, I was thinking, like, we haven't been sending out the recordings, but maybe I should send out the stop the